My son handed me cash and slammed the door in my face while I still smelled of the smoke that took my home. But when my billionaire ex-boyfriend helped me investigate the fire, we found proof that my son didn't just ignore my tragedy. He lit the match. Before continuing, write where you are from or what time it is. The heavy deadbolt of apartment 34B clicks shut, and the sound is louder than the explosion that took my home. I stand in the hallway, staring at the grain of the wood. My hand is still raised, trembling, knuckles gray with soot. A minute ago, I had a son. Now I have a closed door and a crumpled fistful of cash that feels like a bribe. "Get out," he had screamed. "Not, Mom. Are you okay?" "Not, my God, you're bleeding. Just get out." The smell of my own life burning is still clinging to my cardigan, a thick, acrid perfume of melted plastic and scorched wool. I look down at my feet. One of my slippers is missing. I'm standing on the plush, impersonal carpet of a luxury high-rise in one slipper and one bare, blackened foot, holding a shoebox that contains the only 40 years I have left. I need to move. If I stay here, I'll scream, and if I scream, I'll shatter. 2 hours earlier. The smell hit me before the sound. I was in the back garden, deadheading the late-blooming roses, enjoying the crisp bite of the autumn air. It was peaceful. Then a whoosh, like a sudden intake of breath, followed by a crackle that sounded like stepping on dry leaves, magnified 1,000 times. I dropped the shears. I rounded the corner of the house, wiping dirt from my gloves. The living room window blew out. It didn't shatter. It erupted. A tongue of orange fire licked up the siding, hungry and fast, too fast. The heat hit me like a physical wall, shoving me back into the rose bushes. "No," I whispered. Then louder, a scream that tore my throat. "No!" I ran toward the back door, sheer instinct driving my legs. My purse was on the kitchen table, my phone, David's watch. The heat forced me to my knees before I even reached the porch. The kitchen was gone. It was just a swirling vortex of black smoke and angry red light. I scrambled back, coughing, my eyes streaming. The instinct shifted. Save something, anything. I ran to the side window, the one for the guest room where I kept the storage. I smashed the glass with a garden stone, ignoring the shards that sliced my palm. I reached in blindly, my fingers brushing against cardboard. I grabbed the first box I touched and yanked it out just as the curtains ignited. Sirens wailed in the distance, a chaotic heartbeat for a life that had just flatlined. I stumbled back to the street, clutching the box to my chest. It was a shoebox, a simple cardboard container for a pair of sandals I'd bought in the summer of '99. Inside were the pictures. I stood on the pavement, a ghost in my own neighborhood, watching the roof collapse. The firefighters arrived, their faces grim, boots crunching on the wet, blackened debris. They moved with a practiced, somber choreography, but I knew it was over. "Ma'am?" A paramedic wrapped a coarse wool blanket around my shoulders. "Do you have somewhere to go? Someone to call?" My phone was melting on the kitchen table. My car keys were in the bowl by the door, now buried under a ton of burning timber. "My son," I croaked. The smoke had ravaged my voice. "Donovan, he lives downtown. We can call him for you." "No," I said, clutching the shoebox tighter. The shock was wearing off, replaced by a frantic need for familiar ground. "I just need to go to him. He'll know what to do. He's organized." I found 3 $20 bills and a 10 in the pocket of my gardening cardigan, emergency cash I kept for the ice cream truck or the paper boy. I hailed a taxi at the corner, leaving the flashing lights and the ruin of my history behind. The high rise. The taxi driver kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror. I must have looked like a specter, hair wild and gray with ash, face smeared with soot, clutching a scorched box like it was crown jewels. You okay, lady? He asked, his eyes lingering on my bare foot. My house burned down, I said. The words felt foreign, heavy. He didn't charge me the full fare. He dropped me at the curb of the steel and glass tower where Donovan lived, took the crumpled bills, and sped away. I walked into the lobby. It was a monument to modern, impersonal luxury, polished granite floors that reflected my filthy state, air conditioning that chilled the sweat on my neck. The doorman, a young man in a crisp uniform, stepped out from behind the desk, his hand raising in a stop gesture. I'm here to see my son, I said, pulling the wool blanket tighter. Donovan Miller, apartment 34B. He looked me up and down, his nose wrinkling slightly. Name? Rose. I'm his mother. He dialed up, his eyes never leaving me, watching me like I was a stain on the pristine floor. He murmured something low, listened, then nodded. You can go up. The elevator ride was a silent, terrifying ascent. My reflection in the mirrored walls was a stranger, a terrified, broken old woman. I was 62 years old, a widow, and I was about to throw myself on the mercy of my only child. I reached the 34th floor. The hallway was silent, carpeted in gray. I walked to 34B and knocked. My hand left a smudge of soot on the white wood. The door opened. Donovan stood there. He was dressed in expensive gray activewear, his hair perfectly styled. He looked healthy, successful, and completely untouched. Behind him, the apartment glowed with soft, warm light, a picture of serene minimalist perfection. Mom? His eyes widened, first in surprise, then in something else. Annoyance. What are you doing here? You're a mess. The house, I stammered. Donovan, there was a fire. It's gone. What? Everything. It's gone. He stared at me, his mouth slightly open. For a second I saw the boy I raised, the one who used to run to me when he scraped his knee. I stepped forward, ready to collapse into his arms. Who is it, Don? A voice from inside. Simone. She appeared behind him, holding a glass of white wine. She was wearing a cream-colored cashmere lounge set that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Her sharp, angular face was a mask of irritation that deepened into disgust as she saw me. She looked at my soot-stained clothes, the rough blanket, the scorched shoebox. Her lip curled. Oh my God, she said. Is she staying? Donovan froze. He looked from my devastated face to Simone's cold, hard one. I saw the calculation in his eyes, the battle between filial duty and the desperate need to please this woman. The battle lasted 3 seconds. The weakness won. He stepped out into the hallway, pulling the door partially closed behind him, shielding his perfect life from the contamination of my grief. Look, Mom, he whispered, his voice urgent. You can't stay here. The words hit me harder than the heat of the fire. What? Donovan, I have nowhere to go. My house is a pile of ash. I know, and that's terrible, he said, the platitude sounding hollow. But Simone, she's private. We have a lifestyle. We can't have you here. It's not a good time. A good time? My voice cracked. My husband is dead. My house is gone. I'm standing here with one shoe. Lower your voice, he hissed. Donovan, please. I reached for his arm. He recoiled. He actually pulled his arm back to avoid my touch. Get out, he said. The volume rose, panic edging into his tone. Just get out. My girlfriend doesn't want you here. He dug into the pocket of his track pants, fumbled with a wallet, and shoved a handful of bills at me. Here, take this. Go find a hotel. I'll call you in a few days. We'll figure it out. Donovan! He pushed the door shut. The heavy click of the deadbolt was final. I stood there. $100 bills fluttered from my hand to the gray carpet. My son had just paid me to disappear. Inside, I heard it. The muffled, sharp sound of Simone laughing. I turned around. The elevator doors were still closed. I pressed the button, leaving the money on the floor. I didn't want his blood money. I clutched my shoebox and went back down. The doorman watched me cross the lobby. He didn't open the door for me this time. I ended up on a park bench 3 blocks away. The city was alive around me. Cars streamed past, red taillights blurring into ribbons of light. People walked by, talking on phones, laughing, rushing home to warm dinners and safe beds. I was invisible, a smudge of soot on the landscape. The adrenaline that had carried me from the fire was gone, replaced by a cold that settled deep in my bones. It wasn't just the autumn air. It was the shock of total erasure. I opened the shoebox. My hands shook as I sorted through the photos. There was David, grinning on our wedding day, his tie crooked. There was my mother, stern but proud at my graduation. There was Donovan, a chubby-cheeked toddler taking his first steps on the very lawn that was now a graveyard of charcoal. I touched the toddler's face in the photo. "Where did you go?" I asked the glossy paper. "Who was that man in the high-rise?" I shivered violently. I needed a plan. I had no phone, no ID, no cards. Just the change from the taxi and a box of memories. I kept shuffling the photos, looking for comfort, and then I saw it. It was near the bottom, face down, a faded, dog-eared snapshot from a high school dance. I turned it over. Me, 16 years old, in a yellow dress. And him, Marcus, my first love, my high school sweetheart. We had planned the world together before my family moved away and life intervened. He was holding me like I was the most precious thing on earth. On the back, in my own loopy teenage script, Marcus Kingston, Kingston and Son Construction, and a phone number. A landline from 45 years ago. It was absurd. The number would be dead. The business probably didn't exist. Marcus was likely a grandfather living in Florida, or dead. But desperation is a strange engine. It drives you to do things that sanity would forbid. I spotted a payphone near the park entrance, a relic, barely standing. I walked over, my one slipper dragging on the concrete. I fed it my remaining coins. I dialed the number from the back of the photo. Ring. Ring. Good evening. You've reached the Kingston Corporation. How may I direct your call? A sleek, professional automated system. Not Kingston and Son. Kingston Corporation. I pressed 0 for the operator. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Reception. This is Sarah. My voice failed me. I cleared my throat, tasting ash. I'm trying to reach Marcus Kingston. A pause. The temperature of the call dropped 10 degrees. Mr. Kingston is the CEO. Does he know you're calling? No, I mean yes, from a long time ago. I sounded like a lunatic. My name is Rose Parker. Please, it's a life or death emergency. Ma'am, Mr. Kingston doesn't take unsolicited calls. I can put you through to his executive assistant's voicemail. No, please. Just tell him it's Rosie. Tell him the yellow dress. I'm hanging up now. Wait. Click. The dial tone hummed in my ear, a flat, monotonous rejection. I slumped against the graffiti-covered plastic of the phone booth. Of course, he was a CEO, a tycoon. I was a homeless widow with a soot-stained face. I slid down to the ground, pulling the wool blanket over my head. I would sleep here. I would freeze here. And tomorrow. I didn't know about tomorrow. The payphone rang. I stared at it. It rang again, shrill and demanding. I pulled myself up, my knees cracking, and lifted the receiver. Hello? Rose? The voice was deep, weathered by time, but unmistakably him. It vibrated with an intensity that cut through the static. Marcus, I whispered, My God, Sarah told me. She said a woman named Rosie mentioned a yellow dress. Rose, is it really you? It's me, I sobbed. The dam broke. I couldn't hold it back anymore. Marcus, I don't know what to do. Where are you? His voice shifted instantly from shock to command. Tell me exactly where you are. I'm at a payphone near the park, on 5th and Elm. Stay there. Do not move. I'm coming. Marcus, look. I'm a mess. My house. It burned down. My son kicked me out. I don't care, he said, and I could hear the rustle of movement, keys jingling, a door slamming in the background. I'm on my way. Give me 20 minutes. I hung up and sat back down on the bench. The wind bit through the blanket, but for the first time in 6 hours, I felt a tiny, flickering ember of warmth in my chest. 19 minutes later, a car pulled up to the curb. It wasn't just a car. It was a Bentley, sleek, black, looking more like a spaceship than a vehicle. It glided to a halt, the engine purring in a low, expensive hum. The back door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, wearing a tailored navy blazer and gray slacks. His hair was silver now, cropped short, and his face was lined with the map of a long life. But the eyes, kind, intelligent, and currently wide with panic, were the same. He saw me. He took in the one slipper, the soot, the shoebox. He didn't recoil. He didn't sneer. He ran. He crossed the distance between us in long strides, ignoring the traffic, ignoring the grime. He reached the bench and dropped to one knee in front of me. Rosie, he breathed. He took my blackened hands in his. His palms were warm, solid. I'm so sorry, I wept. I didn't know who else to call. You called the right person, he said fiercely. He stood up and gently pulled me to my feet. Come on, you're freezing. I can't get in that car. I'm filthy. It's a car, Rose. You're important. The car is not. He led me to the back seat. The interior smelled of leather and safety. As I sank into the plush seat, exhaustion finally claimed me. The last thing I saw before my eyes closed was Marcus sliding in beside me, picking up his phone and dialing a number. Get my medical team to the house, he said, his voice low and dangerous. And call security. I want to know everything about a fire at Rose Parker's address. Tonight. I woke up in a bed that felt like a cloud. Sunlight was streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. I blinked, disoriented. The ceiling was high, vaulted with timber beams. The room was enormous, bigger than my entire downstairs. I sat up. I was wearing soft silk pajamas. My hands were clean. The smell of smoke was gone, replaced by the scent of lavender and fresh linen. Memory rushed back. The fire. Donovan. The park. Marcus. There was a soft knock at the door. Come in, I croaked. Marcus entered. He was dressed casually today, a cashmere sweater and jeans. He held a tray with coffee and a plate of fruit. Good morning, he said, his smile gentle. How do you feel? Like I was hit by a truck, I admitted. Where am I? My home. About 30 minutes outside the city. You're safe here, Rose. He set the tray down on the nightstand and sat in the armchair next to the bed. The doctor looked at you last night while you slept. Slight smoke inhalation, some minor burns on your feet, but you're going to be okay. I looked at him, really looked at him. The years had been kind. He carried an air of authority now, a power that hadn't been there when we were 16. Thank you, I said, tears pricking my eyes again. I don't know how to thank you. Don't, he said. Now eat something. Then we have work to do. Work? Insurance, he said, his tone shifting to business. We need to file your claim immediately. Get you some funds so you aren't dependent on anyone. The mention of the claim brought reality crashing back. My policy? The papers are burned. Doesn't matter. I pulled your property records this morning. We know the carrier. I have the number ready. An hour later, I was showered, dressed in clothes Marcus had had his assistant buy for me, perfectly sized, simple, elegant, and sitting in his study. It was a room of dark wood and leather, overlooking a Japanese garden. Marcus put the phone on speaker. State Farm Claims, this is Brenda. How can I help you? Good morning, Brenda, Marcus said, his voice smooth. I'm calling on behalf of my client, Rose Parker. We need to file a claim for a total fire loss at... He gave my address. I held my breath. This was the first step to rebuilding. If I could just get the insurance money, I could find a small apartment. I wouldn't be a burden. One moment, sir, Brenda said. Keyboard clacking echoed on the line. Okay, I see the policy. Policy number 74B91. That's it, I whispered. I'm so sorry for your loss, Miss Parker, Brenda said, her voice softening. However, I see that a claim has already been initiated on this policy. Marcus and I exchanged a look. That's impossible, Marcus said. Miss Parker has been with me since the fire. She hasn't called. Well, the claim was filed online at 7:15 a.m. this morning, Brenda replied. Claim number 999-045. A cold knot formed in my stomach. 7:15 a.m. I was still asleep in Marcus's guest room. Who filed it? Marcus asked, his voice sharpening. It was filed by the secondary policyholder, Brenda said. A Mr. Donovan Miller. The room went silent. The only sound was the blood rushing in my ears. Donovan. He hadn't just kicked me out. He hadn't just thrown $100 bills at me. He had woken up, stepped over the memory of his mother pleading at his door, and logged onto the computer to cash in. Rose, Marcus said, muting the phone. Did you authorize him? No, I whispered, but a year ago. He asked to be added. He said it was for emergencies, in case something happened to me. He said it was for safety, Marcus said, his jaw tightening. Yes. He lied. Marcus unmuted the phone. Brenda, flag that claim. Suspend payment immediately. Ms. Parker disputes the authority of Mr. Miller to collect these funds. We will be submitting a notarized affidavit within the hour. Understood, sir. I'll freeze it pending investigation. Marcus hung up. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the serene garden. The tension in his shoulders was terrifying. He's moving fast, Marcus said quietly. Too fast. He needs the money, I said, remembering the laughter in the apartment. Simone. She likes expensive things. It's more than that, Rose. Marcus turned back to me. A claim filed hours after the fire, while his mother is missing. That's not just greed. That's desperation. He walked back to the desk and pressed a button on his intercom. Michael? Yes, Mr. Kingston? Get the legal team and get the investigators. I want a full financial autopsy on Donovan Miller and Simone Dubois. Debts, assets, credit cards, everything. On it. And Michael? Sir? Send a structural engineer to Rose's property. I want an independent analysis of the fire. Marcus? I asked, alarm spiking. Why an engineer? Marcus looked at me, his eyes dark. Because brick houses don't burn down in 20 minutes, Rose. Not unless they have help. The next 24 hours were a blur of efficient, terrifying activity. Marcus's house transformed into a command center. Men and women in suits arrived with briefcases. They spoke in hushed tones, typing furiously on laptops. I sat in the corner of the study, clutching a warm mug of tea, feeling like a witness at my own autopsy. By evening, the dossier was ready. Marcus called me over to the desk. The large monitor displayed a digital file. Subject: Donovan Miller. It's worse than we thought, Marcus said without preamble. He isn't just living above his means. He's drowning. He clicked a tab. Credit card debt. Tens of thousands of dollars spread across 6 cards. Maxed out. Car payments on the Audi and Simone's Range Rover, 3 months behind. But he has a good job, I said, trying to defend the son who no longer existed. He's a manager. He was, Marcus corrected. He was let go 4 months ago. Severance ran out last week. I gasped. He didn't tell me. And Simone? Her online boutique is a black hole. She borrowed $50,000 from a private lender, a loan shark essentially, at predatory rates. It's due next week. Oh my God. They're on the verge of total collapse. Bankruptcy wouldn't even save them from the private lender. They needed a miracle. And I was the miracle, I said, the realization tasting like bile. My house. The insurance money. Exactly. The policy value is full replacement. That's a 7-figure payout. Marcus scrolled down. But here is the part that worries me most. The power of attorney. He pulled up a scanned document. It was the paper I had signed before my hip surgery last spring. He told me it was for medical decisions, I said, pointing at the screen, just so he could talk to the doctors. Read the fine print, Rose. I squinted. Durable power of attorney. Full financial control. Right to sell, transfer, and liquidate assets. He tricked me, I whispered. He sat at my kitchen table, ate my lasagna, and tricked me into signing away my life. He's been planning this for a long time, Marcus said. He just needed the trigger event. The fire. The fire. There was a knock at the door. A man in a heavy coat entered, Marcus's head of security, a former detective named Sullivan. He was holding a USB drive. Mr. Kingston, Sullivan said, his face grim. We got the footage. From the neighbor? Yes, the house on the corner. Their camera covers the street view. Marcus looked at me. Rose, you don't have to watch this. I do, I said. I stood up, my legs trembling but holding. If he did this, I need to know. I need to see it. Marcus nodded to Sullivan. He plugged the drive into the computer. A video player opened. Grainy, black and white night vision. The timestamp read 2:10 a.m. My street was quiet. Leaves blew across the pavement. Watch the hedges, Sullivan said, pointing. At 2:13 a.m., a figure emerged from the darkness. He was wearing a dark hoodie, the hood pulled up. But I knew the walk. I knew the way he carried his shoulders. My heart stopped. The figure moved quickly to the side of my house, right where the gas meter was. He knelt down. He had a tool in his hand, a wrench. He worked for 2 minutes. Fast. Efficient. Then he stood up. He paused, looking around to ensure the street was empty. He turned toward the street light. Just for a second. The hood slipped back slightly. The grainy light caught the angle of his jaw, the shape of his nose. It was Donovan. I let out a sound, a low, wounded animal noise that I didn't recognize as my own. He didn't just wait for an emergency, Marcus said, his voice ice cold. He created it. He burned it, I sobbed, clutching the edge of the desk. He burned my home. I was inside. I was sleeping. He knew, Marcus said. He didn't care, or worse, he hoped. The implication hung in the air. If I had died, the money would have been his instantly. No questions. No homeless mother at the door. Just a check. I watched the figure on the screen slip back into the shadows. An hour later on the time lapse, the side of the house exploded in light. It was arson, Sullivan confirmed. Tampered gas line. The pilot light from the water heater triggered it. It's a classic torch job. I stared at the screen until the image blurred. The tears stopped. The sobbing stopped. Something inside me, the soft maternal part that had made excuses for him for 30 years, calcified. It turned into steel. I wiped my face. I stood up straight. Call the police, Marcus said to Sullivan. Give them everything. No, I said. The word rang out in the quiet room. Marcus turned to me, surprised. Rose, he tried to kill you. If we go to the police now, he'll get a lawyer, I said. My voice was steady, cold. He'll claim it's a mistake. He'll claim I'm senile. He'll drag it out for years. He might even get away with it if the video isn't clear enough for a jury. So what do you want to do? I want to destroy him, I said. I want him to feel what I felt. I want him to think he's won, and then I want to take everything away from him. I don't just want justice, Marcus. I want retribution. Marcus looked at me. He saw the change. The victim was gone. The mother was gone. He smiled a slow, wolfish smile. Okay, Rose, he said. We can do that. In fact, I have an idea. A trap. Tell me, I said. We use his greed against him. We let him have the insurance money. We let him think he's rich. And then we take it all, and we make sure he hands it to us himself. The war room in Marcus's estate was quiet, save for the hum of servers and the rhythmic clicking of keyboards. I stood in front of a glass whiteboard, watching a young woman named Chloe sketch out the architecture of a lie. She was a forensic accountant by trade, but today she was a con artist. It has to be boring, Marcus said, leaning back in his leather chair. He was watching me, gauging my reaction. If it's too flashy, he'll get suspicious. It needs to sound like the kind of exclusive, high-yield nonsense that people like Donovan think rich people do. Apex Global Ventures, Chloe said, circling the name on the board. Registered in the Cayman Islands this morning. Shell company. Untraceable to us. She tapped a key on her laptop, and the large monitor on the wall flickered to life. A website appeared. It was sleek, minimalist, bathed in calming blues and authoritative grays. Apex Global Ventures. Wealth without borders. There were stock photos of smiling, silver-haired executives shaking hands in glass boardrooms. There were graphs showing arrows pointing aggressively upward. It looks real, I said, touching the screen. It's better than real, Marcus replied. It's a mirror. It shows him exactly what he wants to see. He stood up and walked over to me. The bait is the real estate project, the Azure Coast Resort, luxury condos, pre-construction buy-in. We're going to offer him a founder's circle spot. And the hook? I asked. Exclusivity and urgency. He has to believe he's one of 5 people invited, and he has to believe the window is closing. I nodded. I understood the mechanics. It was a mousetrap painted gold, but the trap wasn't the website. The trap was me. I have to make the call, I said. Yes, Marcus said softly. You have to clear the path. As long as he thinks you might contest the insurance, he'll be cautious. You have to give him permission to steal from you. I felt a wave of nausea. I had to look my son in the eye, or at least hear his voice, and tell him that his betrayal was acceptable. I had to validate his greed. I can do it, I said, though my hands were trembling. We've set up a recording line, Sullivan said from the corner. We need his confession on tape, or at least his acceptance of the funds under false pretenses. It strengthens the fraud case. I sat down at the desk. My phone lay on the polished wood like a weapon. Rose, Marcus said, resting his hand on my shoulder. Remember the video. Remember the hood. Remember the wrench. I closed my eyes. I saw the grainy footage again. The figure kneeling in the dark. The calculated way he checked the street. The way he walked away, leaving his mother to burn. The nausea vanished. The steel returned. I'm ready. I picked up the phone. I dialed the number I had known by heart since he was 10 years old. Ring, ring, ring. He picked up on the fourth ring. Hello? His voice was wary, tight. He was expecting a lawyer. Or the police. Donovan? I said. I pitched my voice up, adding a quiver, a breathless quality of fear and confusion. It's Mom. Silence. Then, Mom, where are you? We've been worried sick. The lie came so easily to him. It was a reflex. I'm okay, I said, forcing a sob into my throat. I'm staying with an old friend from high school. She took me in. Oh, the relief was palpable. That's good. Who is she? Just a friend, Donnie. Listen. I took a shaky breath. I've been doing a lot of thinking about what you said at the apartment. Mom, look, I was stressed, he began, the excuse ready. No, I interrupted. You were right. What? You were right, I repeated. I've been a burden. I didn't see it, but I'm 62. I'm slowing you down. You and Simone, you deserve your life. I shouldn't have just shown up like that. Well, he said, his voice shifting. The wariness was melting, replaced by a cautious arrogance. We just have a certain standard, Mom. It's complicated. I know, I said, and I want to fix it. I called the insurance company. I heard his breath hitch. You did? Yes. I told them to talk to you. I told them. I let the tears come now, channeling 40 years of love into a weapon of destruction. I told them I trust you. I want you to handle it. All of it. All of it? The money, Donovan. The payout. I don't know how to manage that kind of money. I'll just waste it. David and I, we worked our whole lives so you would be secure. I paused. This was the pivot point. Take the money, I said. Pay off your debts. Build something for yourself and Simone. Just be happy, baby. That's all I ever wanted. The silence on the other end stretched for 10 seconds. I could almost hear the gears grinding in his head, the suspicion warring with the greed. Are you sure, Mom? He asked. It's a lot of money. 7 figures. I'm sure. Just promise me you'll do something smart with it. Make your father proud. I will, he said. And then, the crocodile tears. Thank you, Mom. You don't know what this means. I promise. I'll take care of everything. I'll make sure you're okay, too. I know you will. I hung up. The room was dead silent. I stared at the black screen of the phone. I felt dirty. I felt like I had just sold my soul. Then Marcus's hand was on mine. You were brilliant, he whispered. I feel sick, I said. That wasn't your son, Marcus said, his voice hard. That was a stranger who tried to kill you, and you just handed him the rope. Across the room, Chloe typed a command, the printer word. The trap is set, she said. The insurance company just lifted the freeze. The check is being cut tomorrow. Marcus looked at the calendar on the wall. Now we send in the closer. The game had moved from defense to offense. Donovan thought he had just won the lottery. He didn't realize he had just signed his own confession. 3 days later, the second phase began. We were in the study again, but this time, the atmosphere was different. It wasn't a war room anymore. It was a theater. Marcus's closer was a man named Julian Sterling. In reality, Julian was one of Marcus's top acquisition negotiators, a shark in a bespoke suit. For this role, he was Julian Vance, a senior investment partner at Apex Global Ventures. He sat at the desk, a burner phone in front of him. He cleared his throat, checked his script, and winked at me. Showtime, Julian said. He dialed Donovan. I listened on the speaker, my nails digging into my palms. Mr. Miller? Julian's voice was smooth, rich, oozing with the kind of confidence that makes lesser men feel inadequate. Speaking. Donovan sounded breathless. He had probably just received a notification from the insurance carrier. The money was real to him now. This is Julian Vance from Apex Global Ventures. I'm calling because your name came across my desk this morning via our algorithm for high net worth emerging investors. Apex? Donovan asked. I don't know you. No, you wouldn't, Julian chuckled. We don't advertise. We're strictly invitation only. But my analytics team flagged a significant liquidity event in your portfolio pending this week, and your profile matches our founder's circle criteria. Liquidity event, Donovan repeated. He liked the sound of that. It sounded professional, not insurance payout. Liquidity event. I'll be brief, Mr. Miller. I have an allocation opening up in our Azure Coast project, Cayman Islands, tax-advantaged. Projected returns are north of 40% annually. 40%? Conservatively. But the allocation closes in 10 days. I have 3 other investors circling this spot, but the algorithm likes your profile. I wanted to give you the first refusal. Donovan stammered. I haven't actually received the funds yet. It's an insurance settlement. It should clear in a few days. Perfect timing, Julian said. That gives you just enough time to review the prospectus. I'm going to email you the secure link. Take a look. Show it to your financial people. But Donovan, if you want in, I need a commitment by Friday. Okay? Yes. Send it. Julian hung up. He looked at Marcus and grinned. He's hooked. He's not just hooked, Marcus said, studying the psychological profile on the screen. He's desperate for validation. You treated him like a peer, like a player. He won't ask questions because he doesn't want to look like he doesn't belong. The next week was an agonizing waiting game. We watched the digital surveillance. We saw Donovan log into the Apex website 14 times in 2 days. We saw him download the glossy PDF prospectus. We saw him forward it to Simone. 2 hours later, we intercepted a text from Simone to Donovan. This is it, baby. This is the exit strategy. Do it. She didn't ask for due diligence. She didn't ask to see a license. She saw the pictures of the private jets and the blue water, and her greed blinded her completely. But there was a snag. On Thursday, the day the insurance check was supposed to clear, Sullivan walked in with a frown. Problem at the bank, he said. My heart jumped. What? Did he figure it out? No, the bank did. It's a massive deposit for a personal account that usually has a balance of $300. They flagged it for AML, Anti-Money Laundering Review. Damn it, Marcus swore. If they freeze the account, he can't wire the money to Apex. If he can't wire the money, we can't prove the fraud, I said, and we don't get the money back. We need him to push it through, Marcus said. He looked at Julian. Call him. Turn up the heat. Julian nodded. He picked up the phone again. Donovan? It's Julian. Listen, I have a problem. The board is pressuring me to release your allocation to a hedge fund in London. I can't hold this past 5 p.m. tomorrow. No, wait. Donovan's voice cracked. I have the money. It's in the account, but the bank, they put a hold on it. Bureaucracy. I don't deal in bureaucracy, Donovan. I deal in execution. You need to go down there and make them understand who you are. Threaten to move the assets. Make a scene, but get that wire released. I will. I'm going right now. I watched the screen, imagining my son storming into the bank branch, fueled by entitlement and panic. I imagined him yelling at a teller, demanding access to the money he had burned his childhood home to get. It was pathetic, and it was working. At 3:45 p.m. the next day, a notification pinged on Chloe's laptop. Incoming wire transfer. Sender, Donovan Miller. Amount, redacted, full policy value. Recipient, Apex Global Ventures. Got him, Chloe whispered. The room exhaled. I stared at the number on the screen. It was everything. My house, my husband's life insurance, my savings, all of it, transferred in a single click to a shell company controlled by the man holding my hand. Donovan had just emptied his gun into his own foot. The money is secure, Marcus said, his voice grimly satisfied. It's in our escrow now. He can't touch it. Simone can't touch it. It's yours again, Rose. Not yet, I said. The steel in my spine was vibrating now, a low hum of anticipated justice. He still thinks he won. Then let's tell him he lost, Marcus said. Chloe, send the invitation. The invitation was a masterpiece of psychological warfare. It was a physical card, heavy cream stock with gold leaf edging, delivered by a courier service. The partners of Apex Global Ventures cordially invite Mr. Donovan Miller and Ms. Simone Dubois to a private dinner celebrating their induction into the Founders Circle. Location, Aria. Time, 8 p.m., Saturday. Aria, the most exclusive restaurant in the city, the kind of place where a salad cost more than my weekly grocery bill, the kind of place Simone would kill to check in at on social media. They'll come, I said, running my thumb over a copy of the invite. They won't be able to resist. They think they're kings now, Marcus said. They think they've pulled off the perfect crime and invested the proceeds in the perfect deal. Saturday arrived with the sky the color of bruised iron. I spent the afternoon preparing. This wasn't just a dinner. It was an execution. I needed to look the part. A stylist Marcus hired, a no-nonsense woman named Elena, helped me. We chose a black dress. Simple, severe, elegant. It wasn't the dress of a victim. It was the dress of a judge. I looked in the mirror. My hair was styled back, revealing the lines of my face. I didn't try to hide them. They were battle scars. The soot was gone, but the shadow of the fire remained in my eyes. You look formidable, Marcus said from the doorway. He was wearing a dark suit, tailored to perfection. He looked like the titan of industry he was. But when he looked at me, his eyes were soft. Ready? He asked. I'm terrified, I admitted, but I'm ready. We took the Bentley. The drive into the city was silent. We held hands across the console, an anchor in the storm. We arrived at Aria at 7:30 p.m. The maitre d' knew Marcus. He nodded discreetly and led us through the main dining room, a sea of crystal chandeliers and hushed conversations, to a private room in the back. It was an intimate space. A single round table set for 4. Dark velvet walls. A large flat screen mounted on one wall, currently displaying a generic abstract art loop. Sit here, Marcus said, pulling out a chair facing the door. I want you to be the first thing they see. We sat. We waited. 2 men in suits took a table just outside our door in the main room. They ordered water and kept their eyes on the entrance. Detectives. At 8:05 p.m., I heard them. Simone's laugh. Sharp, triumphant, cutting through the ambient noise of the restaurant. I told you, babe, she was saying, her voice carrying. I told you it would work out. I know, Donovan replied. He sounded drunk on success. You were right. The car is next. I'm trading the Audi for the Porsche tomorrow. They appeared in the doorway. They looked successful. Simone was wearing a slinky silver dress that glittered under the lights. Donovan was in a new suit that looked stiff on him. They were beaming, radiating the smug, unearned confidence of people who think they have cheated the system. They stepped into the room. Hello, Donovan announced, spreading his arms. We're here to meet the... He stopped. His eyes landed on Marcus. Confusion flickered. Then his eyes slid to me. The smile didn't just fade, it disintegrated. His face went slack, the color draining away until he looked like paste. Mom? It was a squeak, a terrified small sound. Simone froze mid-step. Her eyes darted around the room, looking for the real partners, looking for the trap. "Mr. Kingston?" Donovan stammered. What is this? Where are the investors?" "You're looking at them," I said. My voice was calm. It didn't tremble. "Please, sit down. We have so much to discuss." "I don't understand," Simone said, her voice rising. "Who is this old woman? Donovan, why is your mother here?" "Sit down," Marcus commanded. It wasn't a request. It was an order delivered with the full weight of a CEO accustomed to being obeyed. They sat, mechanically, like puppets with cut strings. "What's going on?" Donovan whispered. He couldn't look at me. He was staring at the tablecloth. "Mom, I thought you were with a friend." "I am," I said, gesturing to Marcus. "Donovan, meet Marcus Kingston, CEO of the Kingston Corporation, and the owner of Apex Global Ventures." The air left the room. Donovan's head snapped up. "What?" "Apex," Marcus said, leaning forward. "A shell company, wholly owned by my private holdings. The website? Fake. The resort? Non-existent. The investment? A trap." "No," Simone breathed. "No, that's not possible. We wired the money. We have the confirmation." "You wired 7 figures," Marcus said pleasantly, "to an account I control. You handed over every penny of the insurance fraud proceeds directly to the victim." "Fraud?" Donovan choked out. It wasn't fraud. It was an inheritance. Mom gave it to me." "Did I?" I asked. "You said on the phone. You said take it." "I lied," I said. "Just like you lied when you said you loved me. Just like you lied when you said the fire was an accident." Donovan flinched as if I'd slapped him. "It was an accident." "Was it?" Marcus picked up a remote control. He pointed it at the screen on the wall. "Let's watch a movie," he said. The abstract art vanished. The grainy black and white footage appeared. 2:13 a.m. Donovan stared at the screen. He saw himself emerge from the shadows. He saw himself kneel by the gas line. He saw the wrench. He saw his own face in the street light. He made a sound, a low, strangled whimper. Simone stared at him. The horror on her face wasn't for the crime. It was for the realization that she was tethered to a sinking ship. "You idiot," she hissed at him. "You said no one saw you. You said there were no cameras." "I checked," Donovan cried, turning on her, panic stripping away the veneer of love. "I checked the neighbors. I didn't know about the corner house." "Thank you," Marcus said. "That counts as a confession." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. "Mom," Donovan said. He slid out of his chair, falling to his knees on the plush carpet. He crawled toward me. "Mom, please." I was desperate. "We were drowning. I didn't mean to hurt you. I knew you'd get out. I knew you'd hear the alarm." "There was no alarm, Donovan," I said, looking down at him. "You disabled it 3 months ago. Remember? You said it was glitchy." He stopped crawling. He realized there was no lie left to tell. "Why?" I asked. The only question that mattered. Was I really worth so little to you? Was my life worth less than a Range Rover? "I needed the money," he sobbed. "I'm sorry. Please, just give us the money back. We'll go away. You'll never see us again." "The money isn't yours," I said, "and you're not going away." I nodded to the door. The 2 men in suits entered. They weren't waiters. They pulled badges from their jackets. Donovan Miller, Simone Dubois. "No," Simone screamed. She jumped up, knocking her chair over. "I didn't do anything. It was him. He lit the fire. I just wanted the money." "You're an accessory to arson, insurance fraud, and attempted murder," the detective said calmly. He grabbed her wrist. Click. The sound of handcuffs. Donovan didn't fight. He stayed on his knees, weeping. The second detective hauled him up. "Mom!" he screamed as they dragged him toward the door. "Mom! Help me!" I watched him. I watched the son I had nursed through fevers, the boy I had taught to read, the man who had tried to burn me alive. "I did help you," I said softly. "I stopped you from hurting anyone else." The door closed. The screams faded. I sat alone in the silent room with Marcus. My dinner was untouched. I felt hollowed out, scraped clean, but I also felt light. The burden of his potential violence, of his cruelty, was gone. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked. "No," I said, "but I will be." The trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. The video, the wire transfer, the recorded phone calls. Simone turned state's evidence against Donovan in a heartbeat, trying to cut a deal, but the judge wasn't interested in leniency. Her text encouraging him to light the match sealed her fate. Simone got 15 years. Donovan got 20 years. Arson with intent to cause bodily harm. Insurance fraud. Elder abuse. I didn't go to the sentencing. I didn't need to see him in a cage. I had already said goodbye to my son the night he closed the door in my face. The money was returned to me. All of it. Marcus's legal team ensured the insurance company understood I was the victim, not a co-conspirator. But I couldn't go back to the street. I couldn't rebuild on that blackened patch of earth. Too many ghosts. "Sell the lot," I told Marcus. And then, I want to start over. 1 year later, the car crunched up a gravel driveway. It wasn't the Bentley today. It was a sensible SUV Marcus had bought for hauling garden supplies. We were a mile from Marcus's estate, but tucked into a private valley I hadn't known existed until 6 months ago. "Keep your eyes closed," Marcus said from the driver's seat. "Marcus, I'm not 6. Humor me." I closed my eyes. I felt the car stop. I heard the engine cut. "Okay," he said. "Come on." He opened my door and took my hand. He led me a few steps. The air smelled of pine and fresh earth. "Open." I opened my eyes. I gasped. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't a glass tower. It was a cottage. A beautiful, sprawling cottage made of honey-colored stone and cedar wood. It had a wraparound porch, large windows to catch the morning light, and in front, stretching for half an acre, roses. Hundreds of them, new bushes, planted in neat rows, bursting with color, reds, pinks, yellows, whites. "You said you lost your garden," Marcus said, standing behind me, his chin resting on my shoulder. "I thought we could build a better one." "We?" I asked, turning to him. He looked nervous. The billionaire CEO who stared down hostile takeovers was blushing. "I've spent the last 45 years building an empire, Rose," he said. "Skyscrapers, bridges. But it's lonely at the top. I don't want to live in that big house alone anymore. And I don't want you to live alone either." He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a key, a simple brass key. "I built this for you," he said, "but there's a guest room or a master suite with 2 sinks, if you wanted a roommate." I looked at the house. It was beautiful. It was safe. It was a fortress against the cold. But more importantly, I looked at the man, the boy who had promised me the world in 1979, and the man who had saved my life when the world burned down. I took the key. "I don't want a roommate," I said. Marcus's face fell slightly. "I want a partner," I clarified. I reached up and touched his face. "I want the guy who remembers the yellow dress." He smiled. It was the same smile from the high school dance. "Welcome home, Rose," he whispered. We walked up the steps together. I unlocked the door. Inside, the house smelled of fresh paint and promise. Sunlight danced on the floorboards. I walked to the mantel. I placed the shoebox there. The soot was gone from my hands, but the memories were still inside. I wouldn't forget them. I wouldn't forget David or the boy Donovan used to be, but I wouldn't live in the ashes anymore. I turned back to Marcus. He was standing in the doorway, waiting for me. "Coming?" he asked. "I'm already here," I said. I closed the door, not to shut anyone out, but to begin. Life after the fire is different. It's quieter. The drama is gone. The fear is gone. Donovan sends letters sometimes, from prison. I don't open them. I put them in a box in the attic. Maybe one day, years from now, I'll have the strength to read them. But not today. Today is for living. Marcus retired last month. He handed the Kingston Corporation over to Julian. "Time to tend the roses," he told the board. They thought he was speaking metaphorically. He wasn't. We spend our mornings in the garden. My knees ache when it rains, and his back gets stiff, but we work side by side. We argue about fertilizer. We drink coffee on the porch. We travel. We went to Italy last spring. I bought a pair of sandals. I didn't keep the box. Sometimes, late at night, I wake up smelling smoke. The panic flares for a second. The phantom heat of the fire. But then I feel the weight of the arm draped over my waist. I hear the steady rhythm of Marcus's breathing. I touch the cool plaster of the wall. I look at the moonlight filtering through the window. I am safe. I am loved. The fire took everything I had, but it led me to everything I needed. I close my eyes and go back to sleep. The nightmare is over. The morning is coming. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here